You're watching NewsX. I'm Megha Sharma. At 6 p.m. today, every single day for the past several months, we have been having discussions with regards to businesses, their game plan to go ahead and fight the coronavirus battle, the lockdown battle. Many of them have come out resilient. Many of them have come out successful. And these are the success stories that we go ahead and discuss. Joining me on the broadcast, a very special one today, are a number of key business persons, entrepreneurs, startups that have been launched by them in the past few months, in the past several years as well. Join me in welcoming Ram N. Kumar, who's the founder of Nirog Street. Sameer Kalra joins me on the broadcast, who is the co-founder and chief growth officer for Pum Pum Pum. It is a startup to help you lease used cars. So that's an interesting startup. We will be delving more in that. Pranav Maheshwari, who's the co-founder of Vista Rooms, joins me on the broadcast. Dr. Bijoy Kumar Sahu, who's the founder and mentor for Sai International Education Group, amongst the tallest institutions that have come forth from Bhubaneswar in Odisha. Soumyajit Roy, founder Emora Elder Care, a very important and crucial service that is being provided by this startup. Mohit Garg, who's the co-founder and CEO of Moneyfront, also joins me. So does Ria Mohanty, who is the CEO, fashion brand Khalisi Women. Will be, in fact, momentarily be joined by Anurag Batra, Dr. Anurag Batra, who has gone ahead and conceptualized and brought out all our panelists today. He will be joining us very shortly. He is the chairperson and editor-in-chief of Business World magazine. And welcome on the show, guests, panelists. It's a great pleasure to have you. And I want to start off with Dr. Bijay Sahu. Incredible journey, sir, from being an entrepreneur to dive in investing everything that you've had with regards to putting in your resources on a world-class school, an international institution that has been commended not just by the government of Odisha, but nationwide as well. It has gone ahead and garnered a lot of laurels. Bijay Sahu, if you can hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Yes, so Bijay Sahu, my first question to you, being an entrepreneur and then going ahead and delving into the world of education and bringing about an educational institution which is top-notch, top-class, amongst the tallest institutions in our country and the best one in Odisha.
I think we are losing out you in between.
Bijay Sahu?
No, Dr. Sahu, we can
okay.
hear you, we can watch you. So
okay.
Please go ahead and talk to us.
Yeah, so thank you, Business World as well as NewsX for this opportunity. You know, this COVID pandemic has disrupted the entire world and shook India, largely. And I think the maximum impact of the COVID pandemic is definitely on the education sector. More than 91% of the students of both school education as well as higher education are out of their institution, out of the school. So it's a very, very precarious situation. And in India, what has happened is more than 55% of the children are in the government school system. And because of the infrastructural, facilities that's available in the rural India, largely for the last 6-7 months, I feel, there is absolutely very less education which is happening in the school area. So, while that's how,
Dr. Sahu, there is a digital divide that is getting created. Do you see entrepreneurs filling that digital divide? And give us examples of that.
Absolutely.
If I may ask short, specific examples.
Yeah, so I was coming to this. So, here there is a huge opportunity as far as this education sector is concerned, because technology and blended education is the way forward. Even if post-COVID, I feel there is going to be blended education where technology will intervene into the education sector so that we can reach into larger areas. So I'll give an example here for Sai Educational Group. Once the school closes were announced around the third week of March, we immediately worked within the next 15-20 days to start our Sai Cloud School, which is almost 360-degree schooling. And since we were in the urban area and our students were in the urban area, so we had to train all our 600 plus faculty and improve the technology infrastructure. And alongside, since the teachers were teaching through the various platforms for 2 to 3 hours, so we had spare capacity of about 5 to 6 hours of the entire workforce. So we created a huge LMS, and this LMS is going to be the Sai Homeschool. So this is how this is given an opportunity where the entire workforce can be digitally empowered, and we can create opportunity as an entrepreneur to reach out to the various urban and rural sector in education. So I feel the way forward for education is technology blended, and there is a huge opportunity for intervention of technology. And as you said, the digital divide, I am sure the way Government of India is planning, the way the digital highway is being planned to the panchayat level, the opportunity that rural India has, as far as the opportunity for edu entrepreneurs to go into this sector is also going to be huge. And I feel
Dr. Saul, we'll come back to you. We'll come back to you. Let me bring in the other participant. Ram, let me talk to you. You run an organic startup. You use the ancient Indian technology, if I may use, or tools and knowledge to build Ayurvedic products to make sure that your immunity and your nutritional well-being is world-class. Tell us, how has your business fared in the last 7 months, and where do you see the sector and your business going in the next 6 to 8, 9 months?
So what we see, Anurag, is the sector, particularly healthcare, is getting strengthened, and people are getting more and more aware about the traditional medicine and the virtues of Ayurveda. The thing is, wherever there is a threat to life is immediate, people go for allopathy, and wherever there is a chronic ailment, such as wherever you need immunity boost, such as the corona segment, people want to go to Ayurveda segment. What we see is technology is an important part of
So, Ram, what has it done to your business? Let's focus. We know the general things. What's happened? I would request all the panelists to be specific and not be general. Otherwise, I'll have to cut you off. So, Ram, give us specifics.
Okay, so
we know the background. We know our readers and our viewers know what's the background. Give us what's happened to your company and what's happened to your sector.
Well, so our sector has got a boost from this COVID scenario, and everyone is excited about what we are doing. So, of course, because of logistics and other challenges, few months during this lockdown were very difficult. However, it has recovered pretty well, and it is going for double-digit growth for next 12 months or so. That's how we see this sector as growing. And
Thank you, Ram. Ria, let me bring in, most people during these times, a lot of my founder friends have pivoted or orbit changed, or some of them have shut businesses. You actually started a business in COVID times in the fashion space. You started your fashion label. So tell us, what was the thought process behind that? And do you think people are going to spend a lot on, new labels in fashion? I think what COVID has told us is less is more. We focus on the essentials. Fashion is not essentials. So am I missing something here, Ria?
Yes, sir. I truly believe that clothing is definitely an essential commodity. When you see food and shelter and clothing, it is a necessity. But at the same time, in the textile industry, it has taken a severe hit in the COVID situation, and it's gonna probably take longer than expected to recover. And the 3 lakh crore collateral free loan interest subsidy on export credits is definitely helping us manage necessary working cash flow and production. But the question still is, how do we generate demand? Because the demand has gone down due to the COVID situation. But at the same time, since we There's an anti-China trade war going on that we all are aware of, and we have to hit it hard. We have to make sure that there is more manufacturing happening within the country and more exports are happening from India, and we are not completely depending on the goods and textiles and clothing that we have been getting from China and Bangladesh. And within the country, we should increase our business opportunities. So I think it's also been a boom in the COVID situation, where young entrepreneurs have launched their own labels. For example, I have launched my own label, but there was a scarcity in demand initially. But also I would say, like, for example, now one of the biggest clothing brand from China, say Shein, has been shut down. That gives us enough opportunity to explore the field of fashion, where we can come up with our clothing line and we can internally generate so much more business. So in the clothing line and the casual line sector, I think we still have a lot of scope if we just
so I agree.
Stop.
We all need to do Zoom calls. We need to be on video, grooming.
Yes.
We need to look better. And yes, clothes do make a man or woman perfect. Let me bring in Mohit. Mohit, give us a sense of what's happening in your business. How have you pivoted in the last 6 months, and where do you see your business and the economy going in the next 6 months? Mohit?
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Batra. I think honestly, this time has been a real boon time for us. We were always a digital platform, but only limited as a brand money front to the B2C segment. What we have done in last 6 months is we have completely steered to B2B segment, realizing that there were a lot of tier 2 and tier 3 cities where there were number of participants in the financial industry who weren't technologically savvy or who didn't have a digital platform to get their clients enabled and fulfill transactions completely sitting in the cocoons of their home. So we've launched a digital B2B platform, and you will not believe we've almost signed up 1100 plus B2B partners so far, all from tier 2 and tier 3 cities, none from metros. These are all chartered accountants who were into financial advisory business, but completely physical in nature. They've totally migrated to digital platforms. We've also launched an analytics platform to cater to large private banks of the country, where we can provide digital analytics solutions, which they can directly transport to their clients, right? So we've done a lot digitally. Being a digital platform, the transformation was quite easy to us. It came naturally. But I think for us as an industry...
Sounds fascinating, Mohit. But give us a sense of the kind of business that has been generated on your platform once you signed up these 1100 B2B partners. Through numbers don't lie. So give us a sense of how the adoption has happened.
Sure. So as I told you, we have signed up like 1100 partners who have tied up with us to further take the proposition digitally to their client set, and each one of these guys cater to almost like 500 to 1000 odd clients individually in their own local cities and towns. So the multiplier effect is quite huge out there. In terms of AUMs, which is the assets which we manage, we have in this last 6 month odd digitally, we have grown over 200 odd crores, which is the kind of volumes we have generated through our platforms just in last 6 months, which is actually doubled from a normal rate of volumes which we used to transact through our platforms. So on all fronts, Anurag, whether be it a B2B side or the B2C side, and even on the new business segments which we have launched, we have seen volumes multiply, and we have also seen the client base increase manifold.
Thank you so much, Mohit. Pranav, you're in a sector that saw possibly the most value erosion. It saw loss of demand. And, how have you coped up in the last 7 months, and have the last 35 odd days shown you green shoots of revival?
Yeah, so thank you, Anurag, for this. I think it's been a difficult period for everyone in the hospitality domain, and also visitor management and renters of luxury homes across the country. So for us, in fact, Anurag, we've always run this mandate of bunk hotels and choose Vista. I think that is something right now coming true. And over the last 2 months, for us, we are almost back to our pre-COVID levels. And it's been a very, very good sentiment. So I think we've got a lot more queries, almost getting back to a normalcy. There are a lot of supply side challenges which we still have. And I think right now India is divided into multiple small countries wherein everyone comes up with their own rules. So out of our own supply of 450 odd homes, we've not been able to open up all these homes. I think a lot more focus with the government towards ensuring there is no further lockdowns will give a complete boost to this domain. So I think for us, the home segment has been very, very good. And we've been doing well. In fact, we've got all our folks back whom we had let go during the COVID. So we are back in business and doing.
That's
and
very good.
Look to
As well for
look to do a lot more. In fact.
Yes, and I'll come back to you on how you see it over the next 12 months, because what you do is linked to what happens to economy. But let me bring in Sameer Kalra. Sameer, what's happened to your business in the last 7 months, and where is it headed?
Yeah, Anurag, thank you for coming in. We are primarily into used car business, used car leasing. Now, primarily, initially we started our kind of demand that we generated was more of aspirational users. Now, what this lockdown did was, get these aspirational users changed to people who actually needed mobility. Now, I can give you examples wherein, people are today a little worried when they go out in metros or other public modes of transport. Now, that is when, our business actually started turning on its head and said 70% of the demand that we're receiving today from the retail market, B2C market, is specifically on mobility needs. And especially once the lockdown was lifted, I mean, there was a specific product that we ran which, run out very well with the corporates. People who want to go back to the corporates, to their offices, are not wanting to go back into, public transport. And that is the... Absolutely. So yes.
Safe space.
And Anurag, one interesting thing, we were able to do business during the lockdown as well. There are a lot of paramedics, doctors, people who had those passes to move around, actually coming out and taking cars from us on lease. And we're proud that we were able to support almost, 25 to 30 doctors during that pandemic time. So, the things are looking up. We are very confident. Automobile industry is going to be riding on the wave of used cars. And that is the space that we've chosen to be in. Not the best way to pent up your demand, but I think so be it. I mean, the demand has really went back.
I mean, if you give us a sense through numbers, Maruti saw April as a zero sales month for the first time in its history. But in September, they were back to 21% growth over their best month. They clearly underplaying it because they would want government to help them more. But clearly, auto sales are back. But give us a sense through numbers where we are.
Okay. See, today, if you look at the total automobile industry, is back over 26% from the same period last year. Well, most of the automobile players are shying away from calling it, there are green shoots because, most of them believe it is a pent-up demand. Pent-up demand, I don't think it is. There are clearly green shoots. People need personal mobility now. Now, players who were in fleet, basically, the cab companies or the ride-sharing companies have taken a hit, that too not for very long. But I think this is a sustained growth. Obviously, it has to be seen over a period of next 6 months, how we are able to sustain it. But I think the defining moment is going to be this festive season. If this festive season goes on well for most of them, and I've been speaking to people in the automobile industry, we can clearly say we're out of the worst. We're definitely out of the worst.
Thank you so much. Mr. Roy, you heard every entrepreneur on the show talking about what's happened to your business. Tell us, how's your business doing and how do you see your business over the next 6 months?
First of all, thank you, Dr. Anurag. Really pleasure to meet you, and thanks to NewsX and Business World. I think it's very important to recognize that elders in this country have always been the foundation of our society. And in some ways, the disconnected world that elders have been living for many years, it's not just during COVID time. We've always had elders living a disconnected life. It's difficult to manage hospitals, healthcare, emergencies, situations. In a very funny way, while COVID has kind of broken that disconnect even more, organizations like us and economy, in a way, the elder economy is trying to bring the whole thing together. So we've actually seen a fairly dramatic growth, pretty much about 25% month-on-month growth during the COVID period.
And for the benefit of our viewers, tell us, what does Imoha do?
So Imoha is actually if you turn around Imoha, it's a home. And a home is where the elder would love to stay the most. elder care for the longest while has been equated with, a nurse being sent at home. It is much more to an elder's life than just being a nurse and attendant. We do a lot of health-related work with the elder, but also take care of their loneliness, also take care of their engagement. How can elders be more active and so on? So this whole, like a consolidated, holistic way of how do you take care of an elder while the elder stays at home is what we do as membership models. We've saved more than 65 lives, over 1,200 calls, and I have more than 3,400 elders across the country now on our platform. And these are elders who can contribute extensively in the Indian economy as well. So it's not, when you turn 60, it's not that you become irrelevant. How can we make them relevant is what we actively do. And we are seeing COVID actually turning it around and making them more connected, more technologically rich, and so on. So we actually see the last 9 months, India rediscovering its elders in many ways, Dr. Anurag.
And, in terms of your company's growth, where are you vis-a-vis February? We are at the end of the October. Give us a sense through numbers.
So we launched we've been about 2 years now. We launched the organization in August, September last year. We had about 45, 50 memberships by about January. As I said, we are close to about 3,400 now. And this is cutting across multiple cities in the country as well as NCR Delhi. What gives me most satisfaction is not that we have so many memberships, but during COVID time, we've saved many, many lives, taken care of a lot of elders who've passed away and their spouses are here, children can't come from abroad. And this is what really gives us the maximum satisfaction that as an organization, we are standing for those who have built the country. And I think that is the common stream that I see. We will rediscover elders in the form of technology first initiatives, using simple things like, these sensors can actually save a life if somebody falls in the bathroom. So how do you build systems and technology so that the elder can stay at home, enjoy everything at home, get healthcare at home, and yet be able to contribute and stay active? That is what we are, really pushing for.
Saumyajit, people like you, entrepreneurs like you, really are representative of the 3C economy. I keep referring to the 3C stand for collaborative, contactless, and compassionate. You clearly represents the compassionate economy because it's, as you rightly said, I'm sure you glow through the blessings of the families and the...
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I can't agree more.
Power of blessings in a world that is driven by numbers and ROI and building businesses. I think it's a lot about what
I can't agree more. And just wanted to add one more thing, Dr. Anurag, that there is crazy amount of very talented elders out there, from chief secretaries who are retired to army officers who are retired, who are now coming back in IMOA, becoming employed again. And not for money, by the way. This is for, contributing back into the society. And I think that is something that the new India will be able to benefit from by connecting the young and the elders together. Because that is what our society has always been proud of, taking care of our elders.
Entrepreneurs on this show, over the last 5 months on this show, have given us a glimpse of what Indian entrepreneurs are doing and can do. And I can tell you that it feels good that people like you are the future of our country and are contributing to the economy in a way that is humane and makes a real difference to the lives of people. Megha, over to you.
Yeah, I think you've gone ahead and encapsulated entrepreneurs, those who've gone ahead and brought about startups, especially during these adverse times. Ria Mohanty being a very good example over here. And you've gone ahead and also, Anurag, brought in people from various spheres, which is very interesting. And what caught my eye was what Sameer Kalra does and how his business has sustained, especially during the COVID times, because this is a new concept over here. Sameer, isn't it going ahead and leasing a car? It's a startup. What you go ahead and do is you lease a used car. And this is something which is very nascent in India, although in United States and in UAE, Dubai, this is a very, very advanced, this is something you can just do it offhand, even in European nations. And what are the, first of all, challenges that you went about bearing when you picked up this particular piece of startup and you decided, okay, fine, this is where I want to bring in. And obviously there must be increased challenges in wake of the coronavirus. The lockdown happened. You had to ensure there was sanitation or protocols had to be followed. People were even wary of going in and utilizing these other, mobilizing aggregators, the likes of Uber and Ola's. So how has your journey been? And has been a revival of business at this point of time? Because it's been 6 months and more, and the lockdown is obviously lifted at this point of time.
Yeah, Megha, thank you so much. See, the first thing is leasing has always been in India since 99, though it was restricted to only new car. What we wanted to solve was a challenge of used car. Particularly speaking, new car doesn't really have a challenge if you were looking from a consumer perspective. The prices are quite standardized. There are 100% funding available. There are back-to-back warranties available by the OEMs, and there are buyback guarantees as well. So technically speaking, from a retail perspective, leasing really doesn't solve the real problem. In India, I can tell you people don't pay for convenience easily, right? So while in Western world it is. But when it comes to a used car, it is completely on its head. I mean, there are no standardized prices. There is nobody who's taking care of the warranties. Nobody knows what kind of documentation, what kind of a car. We wanted to create a used car ecospace in which it's not only about trading. I mean, in used car trading, there are a lot of big players. I mean, we don't want to compete there. The idea is to create car as a service. If I want to drive a particular brand.
And a lot of fragmented small players. Every locality has a trader who's kind of helping you buy or sell a used car.
Absolutely.
So I think you needed to
correct. See, trader community is not looked at with great amount of trust, right? I mean, you sell a product, that's it. I mean, then they don't recognize you whether the car is good, bad, ugly, it's your choice. Now, what we're doing is we're taking a complete back-to-back warranty on the car, which means your tires, batteries, insurance, there are value-added services. Everything is bundled up into one. And what we give is, okay, we want to drive it for 6 months, 12 months, 24 months. That's it. I mean, you go ahead and drive it. The idea is to let the person become brand agnostic. Now, today, most of the people run for a Maruti or a Hyundai because they command a market share and their depreciation rates are much lower. What we say with us, you can drive brands like Volkswagen, you can drive brands like Nissan, Renault.
Parts are available in India and are cheaper. The reason Maruti does that is because of its dealer network. So if your car breaks down anywhere, every mechanic knows how to fix a Maruti. Also, the costs of maintenance are lower. So Indians are value seeking and value for money. And so is with Hyundai now being in the country for such a long time. So clearly, let me bring in Ria. Ria, over the last 7 months, there has been a fear that not only entrepreneurs in certain business segments have seen a loss of revenue, they've also not been able to raise capital. So they've got hit by a twin hammer. And you started your journey during this tough period. What makes you hopeful about the future?
I feel necessity is the mother of invention, and as long as we have demands within our country in the textile sector, we will be able to generate revenue and capital. And I believe textile industry can never be into losses. It's always going to be benefited, as it always we can see the demand rise up in the export and the domestic demand since the COVID situation. And I think young entrepreneurs have a lot of scope whether it is COVID or not or otherwise. When you start up a new business, I think you have a lot of scope to come up in the business of textiles or restaurants. So I think that way there's no fear of generating revenue. There's only a gap in the demand. So once if we can work on,
you need to be a differentiated player. As long as you're a differentiated player, there is a gap in the market that you're addressing.
There's always going to be a boom in the textile industry. It's never going to be always into losses. Textile is one sector where you can generate massive profits. But the only thing that we have to ensure right now is that we are doing more business within the country, and we actually hit hard the anti-China trade war, and there's not more export coming from China and other countries. In fact, we can use those contacts and the links with other countries to generate revenue within our own country and India. And also for the domestic the domestic consumers, I think government should provide them with not just subsidies, but maybe like a cashback offer where it will encourage them to go shopping, like if they go for shopping, you can give them a cashback from the government, which will help them to retain to the brands which are made in India and the organic manufacturers. I think we should really come together and promote that, and that should be the job of young entrepreneurs, to take India ahead in the textile industry and do our part. And I am sure in the next 6 to 12 months, if we just retain all the business within the country and we say no to any Chinese goods and the goods that are exported from Bangladesh and other countries, I think we have a lot of scope to boom the textile and manufacturing industry within India.
We are having a very interesting conversation over here that is led by Anurag Batra, Dr. Anurag Batra. And I was also interested in understanding Dr. Bijay Sahu. You've opened up your own international school, which is garnered rave reviews in Odisha as well as nationally. And these were challenging times with the schools have still not opened, and the places where schools have opened, the parents and the students are not very confident and very fearful of sending their wards into the institutes. How are you catering to this? And obviously I understand there would be an increased concern with the parents and an increased investment with regards to setting up your online tools to reach out and have those interactive sessions that have become extremely crucial. And the game has completely changed with regards to schools as well, especially.
Very, very right, Megha. The situation as far as the education and particularly the school education in India will go for a huge transformation. The way education used to happen, I'm sure the way forward is going to be different, both in the government sector as well as in the private sector. Primarily because now we are going to have, until everything is stabilized, which is probably will take probably 2 to maybe 1 to 2 years. We'll have 3 types of students. One type of student who will not like to come to school and completely online. The other type of students will like to come partially to the school and 75% or 80% online. And some children will like to come to school. So schools have to now cater to 3 categories of students instead of 1 category. So there has to be huge investment as far as the technology is concerned. The other is, in order to abide to the SOPs, is going to be a huge expenditure, because the health norms and the SOPs, which are both by central and the state government, for the schools to maintain the health standards, which is of course the prime concern of both the parents as well as the institution, is going to be huge. And the paradox is that the other side is, there is a huge, outcry as far as the fees are concerned. So I feel, there is going to be a huge churning, and the maximum beating, I feel, will be taken by 70% of the schools, which are budget schools in India. These schools had hardly any surplus with them, and with this, 7-8 months, the fees not coming, you'll see many private schools will close down, and that will bring a huge, opportunity as well as crisis as far as the education sector is concerned. So you are very right. The entire school education sector will go for a huge change. There will be a huge opportunity. At the same time, we have to understand that in India, as per the CSF report, about 12 crore children are in 4.5 lakh schools, as about 13 crore children are in 14 lakhs government schools. So see the disparity and the amount of money government spends in government school and the outcome, and the amount which is spent in the private school and the outcome. So there has to be a balance where, probably more of private investment has to come in the education sector to bring in the quality, and there has to be more of affordable schools coming up in various locations. And this healthy mix is only going to improve, because India's future lies in the school education. The school education is the only sector where the person spends 14 to 15 years. So we have to focus on school education, and probably NEP 2020 is going to throw some light into, that's why probably all the 3 sectors, the philanthropy schools, the private schools and the government schools, all the 3 has been addressed in NEP 2020, but it's to be seen how much of this NEP 2020 can be implemented in its true letter and spirit, because we have seen already 3 policies out of which not even 40% has been, implemented. Our 6% of our GDP to be spent in education. Till date, we have not even spent about 4.6%. So it's a huge question. But the pressure, as you know, will always be on the private entrepreneurs. But we are lucky that, we have a school where we are with our parents and our parents are with us. So, almost 95% of our parents are with us and we are able to propel. And this 6 months has been a beautiful journey with our parents, with our school. So, we have been selling very, very fine.
Right, absolutely. And in direct contrast, if I may bring in Swamijit Roy, he's gone ahead and built this startup, Emoha Eldcare. There must have been huge response at this point of time, with especially elders who are obviously very fearful of going into hospitals for the fear that they themselves catch the virus, and for them it is going to be extremely detrimental for their health, or almost fatal. And what are the kind of actions plans that you've gone ahead? What are the kind of has there been more investment during this entire 6-7 months that you've gone ahead to go ahead and further lucratize this entire situation, and also improve your facilities in wake of the increased demand that you in all probability must have witnessed at this point of time, and further advertise it, because a very crucial period this time, people are not heading out, people do want healthcare at their doorstep, and something like your startup is all it checks all the points that are required.
No, thanks, Megha. I think, as I mentioned, it's very important for all of us, on the panel and the viewers to, for 2 minutes, imagine what is the condition of your parents. It doesn't matter whether your parents are staying with you, whether they are staying alone. The fact is that India's 110 million elders, even if you look at 40 million elders staying in urban areas, a good 10 to 15 million elders stay alone. And it doesn't mean that if you stay alone, everything is hunky-dory. There is challenges of emergencies, there's challenges of healthcare, safety, support, and so on. The bigger problem, even bigger than COVID, by the way, is loneliness. And we tend to think that just because you stay alone, it is loneliness. That is not true. Loneliness can be if you stay in a big joint family and still be lonely. Every elder, who has crossed the age of 60, has lots of desires, lots of needs, lots of aspirations, and sometimes as children we forget that they are the reason why we are what we are. So as Emoha, we have a very holistic healthcare plus many other elements together. It's not just healthcare. While healthcare continues to be a major part of what we do, it is a holistic picture, adding engagement, adding relevance.
I think I just read I was just browsing through about your company, and I came across this particular news report where you've gone ahead and built a buddy system to help elders survive the loneliness, and that can be excruciatingly difficult, especially at this time.
It's very interesting to mention this, Megha, that we've done more than 600 engagement programs in the last 7 months. There have been people who have been restricted to their home. They come in the evening, they play games online. As we speak right now, there are games happening, Antakshari is happening online, and elders across the country are celebrating, partying. Shero Shairi Club is happening. So it's true that physical wellness is important. It's true that health is important. But somewhere we've forgotten emotional wellness. Somewhere we've forgotten that it's not just disease. Disease is important. Nobody's saying disease is not important. We have a full team which works on COVID, which works on ICU at home. We have all the expertise to take care of elders when they fall sick. But we have to remember 80% of elders are not necessarily sick. And when they are fine, there has to be activities, engagements that we can learn from such elders. Dr. Sahu is a youngster with us right now. I'm sure Dr. Sahu can contribute so much, even, he will never retire, right? So people like that in our country are gems, and such gems need to be stitched with the society, with the economy. And that's what we are trying to do at Emoha, basically.
I think you're doing a fantastic job.
Megha, I just want to bring in Ram at this point.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to him.
In my mind, you represent the Ayurveda industry.
Absolutely.
Tell us, where is it headed? What are the trends?
So, see, the problem is currently Ayurveda is, of course, one of the fastest growing segment, which is approximately a $5 billion industry and expected to become $12 billion by 2025. The biggest problem this sector faces is people trust Ayurveda, but they do not trust the doctors and the medicines because of quality of care has been a challenge. it is one of the most, mostly in this category, you do not have technology adoption at all, and you cannot expect this community to grow when there is no technology adoption. And that's where we see Nirog Street as a catalyst of connecting and giving technology to these doctors. And this entire scenario has led to a point where thousands of doctors are using Nirog Street, particularly in post-COVID era, and they are using that to do teleconsultation, they are using that to deliver medicines. So India has about 600,000 Ayurveda doctors. There are over 20,000 new graduates come out every year, and it has survived for years. But still there is a problem of trust, and that is what we are solving.
And Ram, how to solve that?
So the problem is to bring trust. So what we do is we partner with the doctors, we give them access to knowledge in real time, and they, if they are able to get knowledge in real time, they will deliver better healthcare to their patients. And that's where Nirog Street technology, what we call the Vaidya tool is, and community platform, social media is helping them. So this is actually access of quality medicines, real-time knowledge sharing, and of course, connecting with the peer group is what has helped, help them create better healthcare for their patients, and also it has created better, livelihood for the community overall, because Ayurveda directly impacts farming sector as well, because everything that is dispensed in Ayurveda comes directly from farming or deep woods. So this is an important player of entire economic circle that we have, and the good thing is government is, especially current government is pushing this category and making sure that it achieves double-digit growth.
Thank you, Ram. At this point, we are entering a segment in the show where I'd like to ask all the participants, all the panelists, 2 questions, and I want short and a specific answer. First, when do you see the Indian economy coming back in full bloom? Second, what is your top lockdown lesson? 1 or 2? Let me start with Mohit. Mohit, when do you see the Indian economy coming back in full bloom? 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months?
Dr. Batra, I'll go to the last end. I think full bloom is 18 months away, or perhaps a little more than that. But the gradual
stop. Why do you say that, Mohit? Qualify that.
Look, Dr. Batra, so we will degrow by -10% this year on the GDP front, right? To grow from that kind of a muted base and again revive the economic activity. As I look at all the economic indicators, the agricultural sector demand is almost back at 100 if we take Feb as the base of 100. But the core manufacturing sectors, the cement, the steel, the consumer goods, all those kind of things are at around 80 odd level, right? For them to come back to a level of 100, which was the Feb activity, I think it'll be first quarter next year. Post which the pickup starts happening, which is the growth which was expected this year if COVID wasn't there, right? So you would have grown by, let's say, 5.5% if COVID wasn't there, which means the actual numbers which would have come this year perhaps will come FY22. So that's our assumption. I think FY20 has got whatever, 2021 has got written off completely. You should just write it off in terms of economic indicators or the growth per se, and start your countdown from next year onwards. And that's where the ticker starts.
What's your top lockdown lesson? What have you learned in the last 7 months that will hold you in good stead throughout your life?
I think the biggest lesson which we learned, and quite early during the pandemic, was that hope is a good thing, but hope is never a strategy. And
I keep saying hope is not a plan.
yeah, hope is never a strategy. And I think we picked it up in the month of April, March itself, where we thought being a digital platform will be able to well survive and do, but we had to do a lot of innovation. We had to cross a lot of digital barriers to actually reach out to the last mile. We were physical in many forms and aspects. We went to the B2B side, we went to the analytics side, we went to the treasury side, and we kind of figured out a lot of new avenues which were all digitally solvable. And today we are a different business altogether what we were in last 6 months, and that's just because we didn't rely on hope, because we always thought that there is no end to this. Right, and around the month of April, we kind of figured out that you can't peg an end to this epidemic. Viruses are not so easy to have, and history testifies that you've never solved a virus per se, right? So we kind of figured out that we'll have to innovate and challenge it in a different form.
Thank you. Let me go to Pranav. When do you see the economy back in full bloom, and what's your top lockdown lesson?
Dr. Batra, I think being 6 months will be too ambitious. For me, I think it will be 12 months. But I think, like Ria was saying, I think full-blown demand stimulus is absolutely required. One should not worry for the fiscal deficit falling a bit, slipping, and especially affected
We are making a strong
sectors like travel,
government-
tourism, aviation, giving some sort of relief for travel, tourism, and these domains. It'll be good to get some GST waivers over there.
Thank you for being specific. And what's your top lockdown lesson, Pranav?
For me, I think it's been that neither to be very happy, neither to be very sad. I think just stay there, keep calm, and keep going on. So I think that.
Are you married? Pranav?
Yes, recently.
No wonder you're so philosophical. But that's on a lighter way, not to be taken seriously. Sameer,
you.
when do you see the economy back in full bloom? And what's your top lockdown lesson?
Actually, Anurag, I'll just turn it on its head. If we are innovative and agile as organizations, believe me, this lockdown period or this period of lull can end sooner than later. Right? I believe it can go to 12 months, provided people who are there in business, entrepreneurs like us, are able to adapt to newer technology and with speed. I think that's the essence. So, the longer we take for this, I think the longer it will take for us to cut out of the glue.
Absolutely, that's a given. And what's your top lockdown lesson? So,
For us, it was, again, as I said, innovation and agility, how soon we were able to adapt to the new way of working without actually disrupting the business during the lockdown and post-lockdown both, and how soon we were able to adapt to that process as an organization actually was the decisive factor. And that's the learning that I think we've had from this lockdown.
thank you so much. Dr. Sahu, when do you see the economy back in full bloom, where all the parents in all the schools are paying the school fees on time? And what's your top lockdown lesson?
So the last part of your question, when the parents will start paying the fuel fees, I think that's probably definitely within 6 months. But when the economy will be full bloom, it is definitely beyond 18 months.
And why do you say that, Dr. Sahu?
Because the projected GDP is sub 2, and all the MSME sector, which is almost 40% of our economy, is all standstill. In order to revive that, bring back the workers into the work and create the demand, it's going to be at least one financial cycle. So if April is the beginning of these processes, it will be minimum one economic cycle. So it is not before 15 to 18 months that there will be propelling economy and people will have surplus to purchase and the internal demand to grow. So that's why I said it will be about minimum, 15 to 18 months, beyond 18 months.
All right, so that's the verdict, I suppose. From 6
And
months,
the second part of the question is, the lesson.
All right, there was an audio issue, Dr. Bijay Sahu. We could not hear you, but then I think that audio is back. So yes, carry on.
Yeah, the lesson. I'll do just.
When do you think the economy will be back in full bloom?
Yeah, so economy. I did. Was my voice clear when I was talking of the economy?
Yes,
Yes,
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'll now talk about the top two lessons. The first lesson that I like to stress is the quality of life. Corona has improved, I am sure, more than 90% of the quality of life of the people, be it rural India, be it urban
The
India.
quality of air in Delhi is the same. Dr. Sahu, it's got worse too. So
Delhi is not India. So
that's not true, sir. Delhi is very much India. It's part of India. I know what you're saying. You're talking of Bharat and rural India.
So I said the quality of life, because everybody has become health conscious, food conscious, and we have developed hobbies.
I asked you the question. When do you? Yes, and I understand. But let me bring in Ria. Ria, when do you think the economy will be back in full bloom? 6 months, 12 months, 18 months? And what's your top lockdown lesson?
Sir, are you asking me?
Yes, Ria.
So I feel it's not going to be more than 12 months, definitely, until we also cannot forget that we are in a COVID situation. We have to find the vaccine, And until we find that, there's so much of fear in people, and it has hit us in every way. So economy has gone down. To bring it back on wheels, I think it's gonna take probably more than 18 months. And if we can bring the domestic, we can see the domestic demands are rising up. Also, fashion on digital platform in India is booming. We can see that the retail sector is also back in action. So probably 18 months should be given to the textile industry to be back in action and to get the economy rolling on wheels again. And we might just do better than ever before, in terms of bringing business within India, so in the textile sector. So that, I think, should be it.
And what's your
probably
top
18 months. Let's find the vaccine first.
Got it. Of course, I would, if somebody asked me this question, I would say 6 months after the vaccine is discovered. That'd be a real answer. But what's your top lockdown lesson? Short.
Top lockdown lesson, I think we have become more aware of the economy, the politics. We have learned how to be Atmanirbhar, thanks to our honorable PM Narendra Modi, sir, that we have become Atmanirbhar.
Clearly, the Prime Minister has helped, told us to dream big, and has created opportunities like banning on, and that creates opportunities for Indian entrepreneurs to build products and think beyond India. Ram Kumar, when do you see the economy back?
See, I am actually seeing the green shoots, and as diesel consumption is always equivalent to growth of economy, so that is back to action, and people have started spending. So,
Ram, I have a contrarian view. People have to do the same things that they did before, but the output is like being on this treadmill, but being where you are. So that doesn't necessarily mean that the economy is growing. Of course, it is the Diwali month. The IPL was on, so clearly there is demand. But I'm not sure it will sustain if the corona stays very long, or if we don't get another stimulus from the government and lots of public spending that some of you have made a case for. So when do you think it will be back? Give us a numerical number.
So see, next day of vaccine, though people have learned.
When is that, Ram?
Next day
when will that be, Ram?
I think by April next year, we are seeing that I think everything will be back to normal from April of 2021.
I hope you're right. The only reason you should be wrong is it happens earlier than April. What's your top lockdown lesson?
Well, everything has become internet first, and everyone who is not adopting or not adopted technology is going to be left behind. So technology is the one thing that has become mainstream.
Absolutely, Ram. But again, I have a contrarian view. The more technology grows, the more value of physical contact, face to face. So I agree, technology needs to drive every business, especially a media and content driven business. Mr. Roy, last word from you. When do you think the economy will be back in full bloom? And what's your top lockdown lesson?
So my take is that I think I have a slightly more pessimistic view. I think the model I see is that vaccine, while we're hearing about the vaccines, I think by the time it comes in with all the strains, with all the changes, with new waves that might come in, I see that itself being about a 12-month journey from now. And from then, dissemination across such a large country with all its complications is another 12 months. I see next 24 months being, us all being prepared for, kind of a little bit of a slow run, protecting families, protecting elders, and taking care of what needs to be done. But I also see a lot of innovation. So I see a composite shift happening in every sector, whether it's hospitality, whether it's education, and so on. But I see a long haul. I don't see. I see a long haul.
Industry.
Yeah,
and what's your top lockdown lesson?
People, Dr. Anurag, I think I can't thank more about the people on the ground, the armed forces people in my team, the nurses, the real warriors on the ground who've been saving lives, taking themselves at risk, taking care of elders, taking them to hospitals, investing into people, investing into the last mile on the ground who've actually been taking care of elders. Those are really the guys I salute. So that is my biggest learning.
Thank you, Mr. Roy. I think we got different perspectives from all of you. You're at different stages of your entrepreneurial journey, and you have different points of view. But we at Business World and NewsX wish you luck. And as Rishabh from NewsX always says, go to Nirok Street, enroll people in Dr. Vijay Sahu's Institute, buy Ria's fashion brand,
right.
Mohit.
Thank you, sir.
So I'm trying to be Megha. I'm trying to be.
Right, I think yes. I mean, all your brands that you've gone ahead and built with such pains, and you've taken all the time and all energy and funds in the world. I think right from you go about money front, we've spoken about Sai International Education Group.
Early adoption of Ayurveda makes you healthy, wealthy, and white. All three.
Thank you so much.
So yes, I think Ayurveda is the go. Ayurveda is the way to go.
Takes their name on air so that their consumption goes up.
Right, absolutely. I think yes. I mean,
their businesses.
Yeah, we should be publicizing it. We should be advertising it, and the people who are watching us at this point of time should definitely be going ahead and rolling themselves when it comes to Khalasi Fashion, Pum Pum Pum. It's used car leasing startup doing fantastic business. Nirok Street. You can book doctors, appoint doctors, and get medicines online as well. That's a very important strategic gap that is being fulfilled at this point of time. Vista rooms, luxury villas, even as people go about exploring their vistas when it comes to domestic tourism. Sai International Education Group doing fantastic work. We have also spoken about Emora Elder Care. Cannot thank the Emora people, cannot thank Soumyajit Rao for doing a very important social service as well over here. And of course, last but not least, Mohit Gang, who is spearheading money front. So for all your mutual fund needs advisory, you go over there. On that note, I will slip into a short break. I thank all my panelists for joining me on this very interesting, insightful broadcast. They have gone ahead and shed light into the businesses that are growing despite the virus. It is the Prime Minister's Atmanirbhar call, and they all are actually walking the talk of Prime Minister.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.